Now that the blue wash is dried, you can see that. Come on, focus. Well, you can see that the paint is I think it's actually blend pretty well. The gray, there is some remaining gray left, but it's intentional because that way it looks like a gradient color from gray to blue. In fact, I actually add a little bit of blue while we away to actually get even more presence of the blue on one side and the gray on the other. So now that this is done, the problem with this is that the black is actually a bit washed down now, but that's not a problem because we can do something else for it. But I think the blue, while the blue is fine, I think the blue probably is a bit too strong as a further highlight. I think this thing actually deserves a bit more highlight, especially near this sort of edge, to actually make it a bit even more stand out. So I think instead of using gray, using a blue, I think we could use either a light gray, or if we are going mad, I think we can even do white. You know what? Let's be a bit more conservative and start with gray. No, not that gray. Let's start with this gray. But this time we're going to use it a bit more neat. And this time we're going to apply it very sparingly, because we only need to highlight a small amount of detail to convey the point that to convey the highlight effect. We don't actually need a lot of paint, and neither do we need it to be everywhere. So let's try it. That should do it. Okay, hopefully it is going to pick up on the screen. You know what, it probably is not going to pick up on the screen. Okay, this is probably the best it will do. So let's just start anyway. If anyone interested, I will put some photo up to actually demonstrate it. Okay, and there we're done. At least this bit of it. You can see that the pale gray has now picked up some the sticking out part of the model area. Now you can see it between this side and this side, where all of the sticking out bit of the part of the model are actually now white compared to the rest of it. Well, white as in much lighter in terms of color. I'm not sure if it's going to pick up on screen, so I'm going to take a photo. So give me a few seconds, and this photo will appear on the screen now. Okay, hopefully that actually this shows you what I mean. So I'm going to continue on to that side, and I will come back to it after that is done. Okay, and this is more or less done. So the white highlight is now actually on everything that is actually sticking up. This seems to work the best on organic looking parts like this, but it also works very well on dirt effect. So that basically it for the white part of the wings. What I'm going to do now, as I said before, the black is actually a bit washed down because of the paint we have put on it that accidentally get into it. One thing that Citadel have made really well is this, which is a wash paint. The wash paint is basically thinning down model paint, but while it's thinning down, it's also for some reason it's also very good at running into crevices, which in this case is an advantage because I don't actually want to use it straight from it. It can apparently, but I think I'll wash it down a bit, and I need to clean the brush. Forgot about that. There you go. I'll wash down the wash itself a bit and apply in a slightly thin layer, and hopefully because of the added water it will run into crevices even better than normal. It usually is good already, but let's have a try. This is simply a trial and error thing again. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Okay, and I think that is done. We'll let it dry, and after it's dry, we're going to start working on the bone, nail, and the main arm itself. So back in a little bit. Okay, unfortunately the sun has come down, so this room is getting darker and darker. But when there's a will, there's a way. I have a light here, and hopefully that will be enough. So since we actually done all of the main part of the skin, we're going to start with the bone and the frame of the dragon. Since our target is a pure white, painting white right onto black is not going to work. Especially the white paint from Game Workshop has a tendency of showing what's behind it quite easily. So the best thing to do is actually going back to the Codex Gray and start with this gray first. And because it's the paint color change from the bone bone and claw to the skin is supposed to be dramatic, we are not going to have to thin the paint down a lot anymore. We might thin it a little bit just to ease painting it on, but and we still don't need to put a lot of paint on the brush either. We can still slightly doing it like a dry brush effect on it, but this stage will be a lot faster than before. So wedge the brush, take a bit of paint, and we're going to start painting. The aim here is to not making the brush too wet, because if the brush is too wet, your paint will seep into all of the detail and all of the black shading detail, and that is not what our aim is. We want to preserve as many as possible so that we don't have to do a wash over it all the time. So let's get working. We have done the first layer of the grey. As you can see, the grey has picked up the detail quite a bit, and you can see now where exactly the bones are now. The thing is, because this is only the first layer, you don't have to worry about it not covering it completely. You can actually leave, if you actually miss a little bit of it, it doesn't really matter. And if you, on the other hand, if you also find that you are using too much paint and you start to covering some of the dark detail, once again, you can also correct it with a bit of black wash paint, or even just dip your paintbrush with a bit of murky water and just gently brush over it. You can also regain some of those detail. So after this layer is dried, we will have to move on to get it even brighter by adding the white onto it.